According to gov.co.uk, universal credit is a payment that is there to help people with their living costs. But does it really help? If you haven't seen the channel before, we do videos to help employees. And as opposed to many of the channels out there that do this kind of stuff that are a bit dull, a bit scripted, and let's be frank about it, a bit boring, we try to be very real, very honest, but most of all give you a real scope of what's actually going on. So with that, let's get to the video. When I think of universal credit, I think it sounds like a great idea. You know, we have a payment system in place to help people when they're on a low income, they're below the poverty line, they haven't got a job, they found themselves out of work, they need to pay bills, they've got a family, and you've got a payment system in place that can help people. What a fantastic concept. It might only be for a few weeks, a few months, but it'll help people when they need it, and I like the idea of that. And if I didn't know any better, I'd think it'd be a brilliant idea. The vision I'd want to have of universal credit is one where, as one of the richest countries in the world, none of our citizens will go without. They won't have to worry about feeding their families, putting the heating on in winter, paying the bills. It'll all be covered for them, and this wonderful thing called universal credit is going to solve everything. But then I got curious and I looked up some facts. And this is where it went a bit downhill. We live in a country that contains 54 billionaires and 3.6 million millionaire households. And before you think, hang on a minute, 3.6 million millionaire households, I did double check this. That's not individuals that are millionaires, but that's households that have a combined wealth of 1 million or more. According to various sources, we found that 1 in 65 people in the UK are a millionaire. That doesn't necessarily mean they have £1 million in disposable income, but if they sold all their assets, everything they owned, they would have in excess of £1 million. 20% of baby boomers are apparently millionaires too. Who knew? And as dubious as I am about statistics, I think it's fair to assume that there are a lot of wealthy people in the UK. But what about the so-called poverty line? So just to clarify the poverty line, to be considered as living below the poverty line in the UK, your household income must be less than 60% of the average household income in this country. And as a reference point, the average household income in the UK at the time of recording stands at just under £36,000. So for a household to be considered as living under the poverty line, it needs to have a combined household income of under £21,500 per year. Now just to clarify, that £21,500 household income is based on the average household size. So if you're looking at 2.4 children kind of thing in a household, 2 parents, etc., that's generally the average. So for example, if you're living on your own in a studio flat somewhere and it's not that expensive and you earn £21,000, don't think you're living below the poverty line. Now we did a video recently on how universal credit works, and if you haven't seen that one, it's a great watch. I'm going to put a link above, but we found out some interesting calculations as part of that, which is relevant to this video. £12,788.40 a year. So just to clarify, a household is considered as living below the poverty line if its combined income with an average household size is less than £21,500. And universal credit's purpose is to help with living costs. But if you find yourself out of work and you live in the average household size, your entitlement from universal credit stands at less than £13,000.
No, that is right.
So to put that into perspective, the very system that's meant to help people out in their moment of financial need will pay them 60% of what is considered as the UK poverty line. How is that really helping people with their living costs? Now I do understand that household rental costs can be paid directly via universal credit straight to your landlord, so you're not going to go without a roof over your head. And I also understand that universal credit should never be seen as a viable alternative to a job for your household income. But at the time of filming this video, we have an estimated 2.5 million people in this country that are likely to find themselves out of work through redundancy. Being realistic, I understand that universal credit has to be sustainable in its financial structure. But when you're paying households 40% under the poverty line, something really needs to be reviewed. The extra money needed if those 2.5 million people were made redundant and required universal credit for a period of say 3 months stands at £5.6 billion. Now consider that £30 billion has already been set aside by the government for COVID stimulus packages, and as a point of reference, HS2 for example has already cost over £100 billion. You'd think that surely somehow the government can find an extra 5.6 billion from somewhere. So let's take a family with a mortgage for example. Universal credit won't help them keep their mortgage. Their home could be repossessed. All of their equity could default. And at the moment, there are around 11 million mortgages in the UK. So I'm going to leave you with a final thought. If you allow just 100,000 of those mortgages to default, that is a combined wealth loss of £28.6 billion. And that's not even factoring in the combined amount of universal credit payments that those people will be claiming for once they've lost everything. The average monthly payment for a mortgage in the UK stands at £686. But here's an idea. If the government covered mortgages for every household in the UK for a 3-month period, it would cost the government £2 billion. But think about it. If you allow just 100,000 people to lose their houses, lose everything they've got, their homes get repossessed, they default, that's going to be a loss of £28.6 billion. So what do you want to lose? £2 billion or £28.6 billion? How much tax are you going to make on that £28.6 billion? Just do the maths. And there's a ton of solutions the government can think of that'd be much better than what they're doing. And universal credit is just one of them. If you think universal credit's bad, it's the one that we see. There's a ton of other government packages and things that they put into play that when you look at the maths of it, they just don't make sense. So that pretty much sums up the video. Otherwise, I'm just going to be rabbiting on for ages, having a good moan. But if you like this video, do click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon so you won't miss any one of our videos.